Hey guys, I hope you are having as much fun talking about this as I am. I love talking about food. I love talking about the apes and the peoples from the past and how it relates to our food. This is just like one of my one of my favorite topics to talk about if you haven't noticed. And I really hope that this catches on because one of my pet peeves in life is this whole the paleo diet, and like Neo Paleo is even worse, and like why people are all trying to do low carb and how it doesn't really work long term. You can lose a lot of water weight on it, but actually for true, see, there's just a big differentiation in what is true health and true fitness, rather what is aesthetics. And to a certain extent, no matter how you lose your weight, it's going to help you. If you lose your weight off of crack cocaine, it's still going to help some of your blood work, but that doesn't give you a holistic picture of your health. So anyway, we need to talk more about the specifics of the lifestyle. And so in the last video, I gave you guys a basic framework of 50% fruit, although optimally it's fruit, but it can also just as easily be sweet potatoes and even a lot of other starches. As long as, I didn't really talk about this, as long as they are low fat. Again, with the beans, I don't care how much protein. It doesn't have to be this much protein, this much carbs, whatever. If you like it and it tastes good and it's low fat and it fills you up and it's got enough carbs to keep you satisfied and it's low salt, this is the other issue. If it's low salt, then go for it, okay? And I know that like Raw Till 4, which is what I base this on, they did talk about salt. They do talk about salt, but I think over time, they don't talk about salt as much anymore. And I feel like we need to talk about salt more. Because honestly, in my experience, I know like Duran Ryder will tell you that fat is way more important. And I know for different people, it's going to be different because some people just naturally are like addicted to fat and they eat more of it. And so they have more of a problem with it. So they need to focus on it more. But in my experience, now that I've got my fat so low, I don't really need to even think about it because my diet's just pretty low fat overall. Like if I'm eating something low fat, it's gonna be having a good amount of sodium too, because it's just gonna be something like a Cliff Bar or something that you would think is pretty healthy. If you're wanting to lose weight, you need to keep those fats down, even if you're eating a lot of fruit and stuff like that, even if you're eating whole food plant-based. Like if you're obese or overweight, this was one of the things that Joe Best had always said about Raw Till 4, and like he went to the doctor and his doctor said, well, you should only be having 20 grams of fat. Well, you eat 20 bananas, bam, that's 20 grams of fat. You can't eat that big meal for dinner that has anything else. And then, you know, when people go eat another big meal for dinner, that's where people, I think, mess up the most, basically is what I'm saying with Raw Till 4, is that they're big meals, and when they go on to those cooked foods, they are like a little bit cheating. They may not realize they're cheating, but that's, I feel like, where people and where I have messed up the most off of my diet. But overall, fat and salt are so important. And I've actually got a hashtag for this too. It's low SOFA. And it's like, oh, you're low SOFA. The way I remember it is like I've been low SOFA today, you know, but it's not far. It's fat. Low sodium, low fat, basically. Low SOFA. Yeah, so when you see that on my Instagram, that's what that means. It means my meal is low in sodium and fat. And that is, to me, again, more important than raw or not raw. Raw Till 4, Raw Till whatever. Forget about it. Forget about it. So yeah, so salt, and the reason behind this, not only is, I think, like any study that says salt is even decently okay is going to be funded by like the salt lobby, which is pretty powerful actually. It's been shown to be not healthy for us. It definitely has to do with hypertension, which is just a huge marker of health in general, especially heart health, which is one of our biggest killers. And yeah, it's just not healthy. It's bloating. It's one of those things that I put right up there with alcohol or caffeine. It is a drug, and people don't realize this because it's so, we give it to our children. Everybody does it. I mean, it's not a drug, is it? Yeah, it affects your brain. It works on your brain just like drugs. It affects your dopamine levels. It is addictive. Try going without it, literally. It messes up your entire taste buds, which is obviously connected to your brain. That's how you know something is a drug, is it affects your brain. And also, if you eat a ton of salt the next day, you're going to feel it. You're going to see it in your body. And here's the thing, with alcohol and stuff, and even like caffeine, okay, you drink a bunch of caffeine, you get really jittery. and then you know to stop. You drink a bunch of alcohol, you start getting drunk, and you know you have to stop. Well, you eat salt, eat salt, eat salt, eat salt, you're going to get oversalted, and you're going to say, finally, okay, well, I have to stop. But the next day, like, yeah, alcohol can affect how you look, but it affects a lot of how you feel. But I think it's also something to be said for it. I mean, that salt can affect your appearance so dramatically by making you so much poofier the next day and everything like that. So anyway, salt was not used by paleo people. If you are paleo at all, if you consider yourself paleo in any way, shape, or form, whether it's Mio Paleo, Neo Paleo, or the paleo diet, like, you should not be eating salt, because I know the paleo diet like says it's okay, but salt was not around back then. People were not salting their foods. Of course, they were getting sodium. That's different from a lot of different foods. That's how it's natural and healthy to not eat it, to not eat table salt or processed foods that contain salt, because you still get your sodium. Yes, we need some of it. You don't need very much. You need the amounts that are naturally in foods. So it wasn't until the Neolithic agricultural revolution where people started really finding salt, eating salt in mass quantities. And of course, that goes along with the time that we really got a decline in health. And yes, it helped form civilization, but is civilization really that great of a thing? It's detrimental to the world. It actually created poverty and made it an institution. But in the hunter-gatherer societies, people shared for the most part. They shared, there was a give and take, and there was no excess for people to consolidate power. There was like a tribal leader. That was the beginnings of this sort of idea, of the consolidation of power, but everybody shared. There was no poverty. So to say that we need salt, because societies were based around it, just means nothing. So, and again, environmental devastation, poverty, and there's another thing about civilization, animal slaughter, I don't know, like everything. What else, guys? List down below, like, what else is wrong with civilization as we know it? So anyway, back to the other ideas, because I think we've gotten the low salt thing down as of this point. Fiber is another thing that you're naturally going to have a ton of. And I think there's a lot of people that say, oh, well, you don't really need to drink that much water to be healthy. Look at this study. This study says we only need, like, there was just a recent study done by Dr. Greger, which I actually disagree with in the context that he presented it, because he just says, okay, normal people drinking water, wow, you only need 4 cups of water, 4 to 8 cups of water, okay, 4 to 7, I think he says, because his whole premise was that we don't actually need 8 cups of water. But here's the thing. Those people were eating a standard American diet, I'm pretty sure, or whatever diet they were eating. When you eat high carb, when you eat mostly raw, when you eat a lot of food in general, your body actually needs water to digest those foods in general. But it also needs water to push them through your system. So this is why I think that Duran Rider is so big on, like, promoting high water consumption and staying hydrated, because you want to avoid constipation. You want to make sure you're able to digest things. And also, in his, philosophy and in my philosophy, you should be exercising. And people who exercise and eat a lot of food, who are healthy, they need to drink a lot of water. Water is a big thing. Exercise is a big thing. Here's the caveat with exercise, though. Overdoing it is not good. No animals overdo their exercise. They don't exercise for hours, stay up all night off stimulants, and then exercise more. That's obviously unhealthy. What you need to do is get that rest. That's one thing. I think it's more important than even getting lots of high intensity exercise, is the rest, because it balances out your hormones. And really, like I said, all animals do this. They get rest when they can. This is the true meaning of Kung Fu, is like efficiency and doing, what you need to do, and like saving up that energy for when you need it. And yeah, if the energy is not needed, then those animals are going to go play. They're going to have fun. They're going to get that energy out in one way or another. But again, they're just going to do it till they get tired, and then they're going to go lay down. They're going to go rest and like save their energy for the next time. And here's the other thing about it. They do not sit on the couch for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all day, whatever, and then get up and go strenuously do some CrossFit and then come back home and lay down for the rest. and then go sedentarily work. I think, again, even more important than getting a lot of good high intensity exercise is, or we're even considering the amount of exercise at all, is to just make sure that you're not sedentary. And science backs this up as well. It is so unnatural to sit at a desk or sit in a lazy chair. I think the studies say about 2 hours is like detrimental to your health. It's like as bad as anything else that you do. But I would say even like 20, 30 minutes, I mean, is going to be like, just get up and move at least if you're just like moving your legs around, stretching in any way, shape, or form. It's just so, it's really, it's not just about your legs, it's about your whole health. That idea, being more animalistic in that way, is going to help everybody be healthy. That helps you if you're really super busy and like you don't have time for exercise. Well, if you don't have time for exercise, at least just make sure that you're not being sedentary. To go on just kind of the other parts of the lifestyle and the diet, like mono meals are really important, I think. And I would say even duo meals, especially if it's going to be greens, because greens are like the one food that goes with everything on the food combining charts. Any food combining chart you see, whether who makes it, greens literally go with anything. They go with proteins, they go with fats, they go with fruit. This is why they're 40% of the diet in the Mio Paleo plan, because they are there. We're supposed to be eating them with everything. That's kind of obvious. If they go with everything, that kind of just means, hello, eat lots of these things. You know what I mean? It's like our bodies tells us what to do if we just pay attention. So yeah, lots and lots of greens with your other foods. Otherwise, keep it pretty low. And I would say if you're eating, like, let's say you're eating a salad. Like salads, I tend to maybe put more things on, but here's the deal. If you're having a salad and it's got raw this and raw that, except for beans, I find that beans for me work well with, and you might find things like that. Like maybe you could eat like sweet potatoes cooked with, you know, and do what feels good for you. But for me, like cooking peas, like a bunch of peas and putting them on a salad, not gonna digest well. Obviously, maybe a little bit of fat if you're eating nuts. Do it with a salad as opposed to a fruit. But just be careful of food combining. I think, like, in general, I just, like I said, like to do mono meals or duo meals where you're just eating like 2 things at a time. Again, mostly greens. Doesn't have to be leafy greens. Yesterday I had quinoa and snap peas and it was freaking awesome. Yeah, I put a little sauce on it. A little low fat, low sodium sauce. Again, no big deal. If it's going to help the rest of it go down and keep you satisfied, do it. Just try to look for the best alternatives. And I found the best alternatives, you know, watch some of my hauls about what's low fat and what is low salt. So once again, the reason behind this is not only off of what I feel and what Raw Tofu has taught me, but it also has to do with the apes. And they will basically, and even, you know, the early hominids and humans were going around and they would find a food source. They're not just going to like take a couple of the food sources, be like, oh, you know, I'm going to go over here to this other area and get some more of this food source and put them together. It's just not as natural. So what they do is they sit there and they will be like, okay, let's camp out here for a couple days. We got a good food source. Fucking eat it all till it's all gone and then we'll keep on going. That's what you do. So I think that's what it's natural. It's what our bodies want us to do. So that's why I believe like Banana Island is fucking awesome. I don't believe in, you know, obviously living off bananas for the rest of your life and nothing else, and romaine lettuce. Like, you need some variety. And on the flip side, you know, I always say hunter and gatherers. They're saying now it's more gatherer hunters because they were vastly more gathering than they were hunting, quantity wise. But the gatherers were gathering tons of different types of food. It's just that I think a lot of the stuff that you gather is going to be a little bit lower in calories. Like, you may find some berries, you may find a couple of nuts, you may find, and I mean, maybe you have one period of the year where you find a lot of nuts and you eat a lot of nuts and then you don't eat them for the rest of the year, you know, or this fruit or that fruit, but you're going to be able to find greens like wherever you go. I just pretty much talked to you guys about the lifestyle and kind of the more specifics of the actual diet. I've talked to you about rest, the importance of rest, the importance of movement in general, the importance of low salt, high fiber, low fat mostly. Again, fat to me is more of a food. It's more of a food than salt is. It's got more benefits. Yes, I realize salt has minerals. It is a mineral, but there's going to be more benefits of, say, eating like an avocado or eating some nuts. But again, I just don't think that you were going to find these all year round. I don't think you were going to find them in large quantities. Probably what people do is they would find them and they would store, it would be like their backup food, you know what I mean? Because they store very easily. So they probably wouldn't even have a time where they would like gorge on nuts. They would probably like put them in their pockets and say, okay, we'll have a little bit of these in the winter. So that's kind of my philosophy on it. Like, we definitely need a little bit more fat in the winter. So if there was a time where I was going to focus on nuts and seeds, it would probably be in the winter. So anyway, that's kind of, like I said, check out the last video if you haven't already.